Hi there, this is Sylvie from the website sylviesoul.com. I'm a former fan fiction writer that now gives tips and tools to aspiring writers to help them achieve their dreams of one day publishing a novel. If you like the content that I provide, then please subscribe to my channel and also tick that bell so you'll be notified whenever I make a new video. So I wanted to get on the camera today to talk about some recent news that has come out in the writing world. Storytelling app Wattpad has recently been acquired by the South Korean company Naver. If Naver doesn't sound familiar to you, that's the company that actually owns WEBTOON. If you don't know who WEBTOON is, they are the company that specializes in user-generated webcomics. It's kind of like a webcomic version of Wattpad. So this acquisition happened sometime in January. Wattpad was acquired by Naver for $600 million in stocks and cash. So quite a big deal. And I wanted to get on camera to talk about it because while I no longer write fan fiction, I do still frequent the platform Wattpad, and I just wanted to give my thoughts on the whole situation, what this might mean for someone who does still write fanfics or just wants to know what this means for them now that Wattpad is owned by another company. The first thing I wanted to touch upon is, I guess, why this acquisition would make sense. I mean, if you see what Wattpad has been doing over the past few years, they've been branching out from strictly being a storytelling app. They've opened up a division strictly for books, so for people who have made original content, not just fan fiction on Wattpad, they have had the opportunity to have their books made physical and distributed outside of a digital format. They've also opened up a branch that's gotten quite a lot of notoriety called Wattpad Studios, and if you're not in the know, they are the studio responsible for releasing such properties as The Kissing Booth and Anato's After. All of these have become series on Netflix and movie properties that you could go and actually see. In fact, the sequel to After came out last year, and it actually performed well enough. It beat out The New Mutants in some UK markets in summer of 2020. So they were branching out and defining themselves, it appeared, outside of the realm of just being a writing website. So it might seem like a step backwards to then suddenly decide to merge with a company that still specializes wholly in the digital realm. But this move might have been a long time coming in the making. The recent Waddies, that's the annual writing competition that they have on Wattpad, it was actually sponsored by WEBTOON last year. So that was just a little bit of behind the scenes movement towards this next stage where they would join with WEBTOON. And again, it's not like the two groups are mutually exclusive, WEBTOON and Wattpad. Yeah, of course, Wattpad deals primarily with writing, and WEBTOON's more in the visual space. But when you actually think about the type of properties that are popular, that get shared or featured on both sites, you'll see that they kind of join together. They're both very fandom-based, very tropey, they kind of fall into the same sort of audience. That's what I'm trying to say. Wattpad and WEBTOON ultimately cater to the same audience. Yes, there are people who write original content there. Primarily, Wattpad and WEBTOON are involved in the same space in terms of things that are popular. On Wattpad, the things that really take off are fan fictions based on boy bands, and WEBTOON, if you look at the type of content that's popular there, it's a lot of romance comics. There's a lot of stuff that deals with the same tropes that are played around with in Wattpad. So with Wattpad's 90 million strong user base combined with WEBTOON's about 72 million strong user base, it just makes sense that they would come together. This acquisition might seem out of the blue, but I think the two companies stand to benefit. WEBTOON especially. I have to be honest with you, I knew very little about WEBTOON until I started reading up on it. I knew vaguely that they dealt with comics. I did a quick Google search and I saw an ad for a popular WEBTOON comic on the site, but the ad was in a different language, so I think this greatly benefits WEBTOON because they get a more stronger hold to the North American market. WEBTOON is massive in Asia, from my knowledge, in South Korea, Japan, in those areas. The WEBTOON industry is booming and massive. Here, I don't know, not so much. Maybe I'm wrong. I hear more about Wattpad. Well, I live in Toronto, and actually Wattpad is a Toronto-based company. By the two companies combining, I could definitely see WEBTOON taking advantage of Wattpad's resources and building a more strong, defined presence here in North America, so the States and Canada. Speaking of Wattpad's resources as well, as I mentioned earlier, they've branched into the film and television space. So they're trying to reach a much wider market outside of just strictly stories. They're doing film, they're doing TV, they're Netflix deals, movie deals. It's a no-brainer that WEBTOON would want a piece of that pie. And what makes this acquisition more interesting and how they can evolve how they use Wattpad Studios is perhaps now they might be considering taking properties that are popular more in the East, more in South Korea and China and Japan, and turning those into properties that are widely distributed internationally. K-dramas are a massive deal right now, both in North America and in Asia. So I could definitely see WEBTOON taking advantage of Wattpad Studios, either combining or making another branch or rebranding as WEBTOON Studios. Just taking this whole library from both Wattpad and WEBTOON so that they have all these properties they can use and make even more shows and more movies. So it's definitely something I could see happening down the line. I do have one slight concern about the acquisition. It's not really founded, but it's just the initial gut reaction I get regarding Wattpad and WEBTOON joining forces. What's going to happen with the fan fiction on Wattpad? So again, as I said, a lot of the stuff that becomes popular, it's original content, and it's original stories that they're championing, but there's still a lot of fan fiction, a ton of fan fiction on Wattpad. It's one of the biggest places for fan fiction aside from fanfiction.net, an archive of our own. So it makes me wonder if this acquisition is gonna cause fan fiction to take a back seat. Perhaps WEBTOON's going to want to use Wattpad as another space to share webtoons. Right now Wattpad is strictly fiction, as I mentioned earlier. However, I've seen some people kind of cheat the system and just use the platform to just post fan art. You could go on and it's just nothing but pictures of fan art instead of writing. So maybe WEBTOON saw that and thought maybe they have a way of incorporating themselves more into Wattpad and streamlining that user experience, so that if people want to read or see webcomics, then they can just as easily go on Wattpad as if they were to go on WEBTOON. Now, do I think the same thing's going to happen for WEBTOON, where you can go on WEBTOON and start reading fiction and fan fiction? I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. If anything, I think the influence of WEBTOON is going to creep more into Wattpad. I had a fear that perhaps maybe they would take the headquarters of Wattpad and transplant it into Asia, maybe in South Korea. The article that I've read stated that the CEO of Wattpad, Alan Lau, stated that there's no immediate major changes down the pipeline for Wattpad. He's still in control. So as of right now, Wattpad's still mainly stationed here in Toronto. I don't know if that's going to change down the line, but that is something to consider. Perhaps down the line, maybe Wattpad will be more focused towards a WEBTOON audience, and the people who are into Wattpad either have to accept that and embrace these new changes, or they just might have to go to a different platform if they want to share written content. But again, it remains to be seen. This acquisition just happened in January of 2021, so it's all speculation what's going to happen and how the site's going to transform. I'm trying to be optimistic. I keep thinking of other sites that have gone through acquisitions and then either sort of like petered out or just kind of been slowly consumed from the inside until they silently closed down. If anyone remembers Figment was used to be a writing platform. I think they were bought by Random House, and then they just became another site entirely down the line and Figment no longer exists. I'm hoping that's not the case for Wattpad. I'm hoping great things for Wattpad, but I think it's worth keeping an eye on it and seeing what happens down the line. So that's all I wanted to say today about Wattpad. If you find this kind of content that I'm talking about interesting, let me know. Bring the like button down there, or do the dislike if you prefer I stick strictly with more writing tips. But I thought this might be interesting for writers who actually watch my channel, or if you just weren't aware of the recent news regarding Wattpad and WEBTOON. So once again, if you enjoy this channel, be sure to subscribe, and also visit my site, sylviesoul.com, if you want weekly posts about writing and just writing tips in general. Okay, that's all I have to say for now. Bye-bye.